Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Wilbur. Welcome to this episode of 10-Minute Expert Insights. I'm here today to welcome our guest, Claas Lorenz. Hello, Claas.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you here. And today our topic is security-defined networking. Before we dive into that, can you tell us just a little bit about Genua?
Sure. So Genua, we are a Germany-based network security infrastructure manufacturer, and our core markets are government-grade, military, and related industries. We're part of the Bundesdruckerei Group, which is the German manufacturer of banknotes and passports and so on. And they have a strong security division as well. So IT security division as well, mostly focused on secure digital infrastructures, and we are part of that division.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And now let's dive into security-defined networking. Could you maybe give everybody, to start off, maybe just a one-sentence description?
Sure. So security-defined networking is a network security paradigm to balance out business application operation needs with security compliance requirements. And the key idea is to add a lot of flexibility to max out the best of both worlds.
Yes, those competing demands between IT ops and the IT security side of the house, I think are very important, and it's a challenge many struggle with. So maybe we can take just a second and talk further about these challenges.
Yeah, sure. So what is actually the issue here? So we have, I would say, two domains that are driving IT security in a positive and negative way. And the first one is business. The need for business is quite obvious, and then it's a highly dynamic environment where business processes drive this growth and so on. And this dynamic world is often limited by the ability to scale IT security. And IT security stems from compliance, and in compliance we have two major drivers. The first is risk management, the other is regulation, and both are compared to business evolution, both are quite stable, and this sums up then to relatively low budgeting of IT security. So to balance this out, we want to offer more flexibility and to distribute security policy management, which tremendously helps business people to get new feature for their business processes as fast as possible.
I think that's a familiar challenge to many people. Let's take a look at a conventional network architecture, and maybe you can kind of walk us through where some of that tension between the IT ops and IT sec side of the house plays out in terms of conventional architecture.
Yeah, sure. So this archetypical architecture that we see here is still very present in many, if not most, deployments that we see. So what we see here very clearly is this next generation firewall, which is placed right in the middle as a central entity to enforce a security policy. And the security policy is also defined centrally by the IT security team. The problem that arises here is this policy enforcement, as well as its definition, often becomes a bottleneck. So if as for example, as a researcher, you just want a new port for your application to be opened by the firewall, then this takes a while. You have to wait for the maintenance window, and then at some point you are able to use your application. This is one thing, and the other thing is you see these large segments here. Once an attacker is able to infiltrate one of those segments, there's barely any obstacle for spreading within. And this is really, we see that quite often in practice happening. So this perimeter only approach comes to a limit.
Yes, I think we all know that even with the very best firewall available, obviously, threats still do pass through, and it's a high concern to everyone. And your solution, or the paradigm for security defined networking, also addresses this, that east-west lateral movement. Let's look at the same architecture, but with the redesigned using the SecDN paradigm, and illustrated here with some real types of products from Genua.
Yeah. So the major, or the core idea here is that we replace the access switches with smart edge security devices, which offer a lot of security functionality that were previously offered by the next generation firewall. And this distributed security enforcement infrastructure enables distributed policy definition as well. So the security team still defines a central policy, which is much looser than before. And now we are able to delegate very fine-grainedly delegate the policy definition to the departments. So, for example, with our research team, now they are able to open ports for themselves in our previous example. So, and we can do this because we define microsegments. So this security edge device is able to filter very fine-grainedly between any asset that we see if we want to. So by delegating abilities for policy enforcement, this central security team would lose control, and this is not acceptable for a compliance, which is very obvious. So how do we tackle this? We have within the edge devices, we have very deep insights into a traffic, and if an attack is detected, we are able to mitigate this attack and overrule local security policy. So we have kind of a kill switch in place. And
Excellent.
one other thing that we see here, the central firewall now is not the main enforcement point anymore. So we can implement it using just a packet filter with a VPN concentrator, which is much cheaper. So in essence, this whole solution from a CapEx point of view is most likely not more expensive than the previous one, yet it offers a lot more security. So, and also the operation cost should go down as it's shifted partly to the business division.
And it does look like that in terms of flexibility and scalability, at the same time, you're working in sort of a zero trust environment and additional security, that you're not only balancing the both, but sort of having the best of both worlds. And on that Threat Defender product there, again, that's a network detection and response solution. And you described that as a secure edge device. And that made me think of another paradigm that's increasingly being adopted, and that is SASE architecture, which is trying to do a little bit of the same thing in terms of gaining and scalability and flexibility with security. So SASE is Secure Access Service Edge, combines network services, security services, and delivers them via the cloud. So that's where you'd have your SD-WAN, a VPN, next generation firewall, et cetera, as a service. And how does SecDN fit in, for example, with a SASE environment?
Yeah. Okay. So with SASE, in essence, you delegate major parts of your security policy to a security provider or the SASE provider. And yet you still need, and this has several benefits. For example, it's unifying integration approach where you can integrate a lot of very heterogeneous devices, IoT, and so on and so on. So this is, and also as it works as a service, you have benefits when operating and for operating and scaling. So yet for compliance reasons, you will still require the last word on security always. And I don't see in any future this will go away completely. So what you can do here now is on the policy definition level, you can delegate a lot of this basic policy that we had to the SASE provider, and also keep the local policy definition for your departments. And combining both, you get a lot of benefit for both worlds. So you still have the kill switch, you don't have to operate much of the infrastructure yourself, and you have the last word on security.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And that looks like a very flexible sort of architecture that will accommodate well those competing demands, not only in networking and in cybersecurity, but also with some of the evolutions that are happening in telco. Now, if you have any questions about SecDN, concept questions, you can reach out to Claas. There's his email address. And if you have any company or product questions, I invite you to get in touch with Genua through the contact form on their website, and the same for our host, Enea. So thank you very much, Claas, for joining us today and explaining security-defined networking.
Thank you very much, Laura, for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to Enea for hosting the series.